Fabulous people, this is Melanie Warren, also known as Coach Mel, and I am a fertility, adoption, family mindset coach. On my channel, I share things as it relates to infertility, adoption, and everything else in between. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back to paradise. On my channel, I'd love to share things to inspire, to motivate, and educate you as you go through your infertility or adoption journey. So today I just want to finish up my story, my infertility and adoption story. So stay tuned. If you didn't see the first part of my video, part one, make sure you click on the I so you can see that and just kind of catch up to my journey. So as I was sharing the last part, I think I ended about my experience that I happened in church on one Mother's Day, and how somebody said to me, first she said Happy Mother's Day, and the next birth she says, but you're not a mother. But I have to tell you this, that even though that day was a very devastating and a difficult day for me, it was also a turning point where I realized that, yes, that day I was miserable, I was unhappy, just very downtrodden about life. But I also came to a point where I did not want to allow this infertility to define who I was. I wasn't the barren one, or I wasn't less of a woman. I was still somebody. And I had to really remind myself. And when I did that, and I literally just like, God, you need to take this. Either you take away the desire, and I think I said that before, either you take away the desire or you lead me on what I need to do so I can either enjoy my husband, enjoy being married, and my family would just be me and my husband, or what do I need to do? What do I need to do to fulfill the purpose and plan that you had for my life, so I won't constantly keep going through this circle of depression, of loneliness, of frustration, of bitterness and anger, because I was not liking the person who I was. And when I tell you, this wasn't a process that took us overnight. This took years for me to get to a point of release and totally giving to God. Our children did not manifest until it was our 13th year of marriage. No, I think it's either 13 or 14, somewhere around there, of our marriage. And let me tell you, so anyways, as I'll show you, so after a while, God did place our desire for us to go through another route to build our family. And when we decided to adopt, I actually decided, my husband at first, when I would share with him, because I said to him, I think we should, while we're waiting for our children to manifest from our loins, we could be a blessing in the meantime. And at first he wasn't on board at all. And I did not want to badger him. I didn't want to put something on him if he was not willing to do it, because then I didn't want to get to a point where, we get the children, and then I end up losing my husband in the process, and then I'm a single mother. That wasn't a choice or a desire I had for my life, and I didn't want that. So I literally prayed about it, and I left it to God. And let me tell you, God came through, because one day we were going out of town and we're driving along, and he says, I was thinking, and I'm like, okay, what are you thinking? And he says, I think we should go ahead and adopt. What? I said, no problem. I wasn't like, about time, what do you mean? I've been waiting. I was not. I did not do that at all. I went ahead and said, okay, well, when we go back home, I get the information and we can go from there. By this time, I had a couple of information, but I wanted to get all my ducks in a row and to share them the options. So I shared with him about private. I shared with him about foster. I shared with him foster to adopt. All the different. I shared with him about international adoption, and we wanted to do international adoption because we are of Jamaican descent. He's Jamaican and I am Jamaican. But anyways, and that was a route that we started to do first. But once we started, it was really tedious, and there was a lot of red tape and just a lot of legalism. And then we did not want to do foster at all. That was not desired, because we didn't want a child to come into our home. We love on them, we care for them, because we had a little a kind of experience prior to that, and then the child ended up leaving. So we were like, okay. And then at first private is expensive. Private adoption is expensive. So we were like, okay, we have to figure out how to do it. And so I said, well, we can go through the state system. Where we can do straight adoption, and we do have to take a class. They'll do the home study. They'll do everything for us. So that is the option that we chose. And as I said, we did not want to do foster to adopt. Fast forward. So we went through the class. We did our math class. They said, what type of child are you looking for? And then we were like, well, we would like to have an infant. And if you know about the state system, it's kind of difficult to get a younger child through the state system. So they're really pushing about older. They're like, you can do a toddler. So we're like, okay, we'll do a toddler. But our first desire is to do as young as possible. So we did finish the classes. We're going through. We're with one state agency, and we got matched to at the time the little boy was 1 year old, and I remember I think he was either 1 or 2 years old, but he was a young one. And they were like, oh, we have a child that he's going up for adoption, would you be interested? And so we're like, of course. So they're like, well, we're going to go through I forgot the name of the process, basically to figure out who the child was going to go with. But they're like, you have a good chance that the child will be placed with you. You meet all the ramifications, what have you. So we're like, fine. So I remember I was at work, and this was on Friday afternoon, and I'm waiting all day. My stomach is in a knot, because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're about to have a child. I'm anxious. I'm excited. I see my phone rings. I pick it up, and it is the agency, and they're like, and as soon as she says, Mrs. Warren, and it's like I knew we were not matched. I'm like, what? I bawled that weekend. Like, oh my, no, this is a joke. This has to be a joke. This has to be a joke. Needless to say, we got over that. We said, let's make the sacrifice. So we said, let's go ahead and do the private adoption. So we end up doing the private adoption. We did the home study all over again. And this time we were able to get our first deposit. Our first deposit was like $5,000. So we begged, we asked friends, we asked family more so, and they, gave it to us. So we went with this agency that I searched for. I thought that they were really reputable. They seemed to have good reviews. We met with them. We did the whole 9 yards, and then we got, we gave them the money. So weeks going by, months going by, and I'm not hearing anything. So one day I said, let me call them and just kind of find out where we are, what's any possibilities, anything. And so I called them. So when I called them and I go, hi, this is Melanie and what have you. And she says, who is this? And I was like, who is what? You know who I am? We just gave you $5,000, which we had to scrounge up for, and you don't know who we are? You're kidding me. And she's like, oh. So needless to say, I was devastated. Again, like, I'm working with somebody who doesn't even know who I am. And you're kidding me, and we just paid all this money. So needless to say, we're in transitioning in this process with our church and the whole 9 things. So we end up leaving the church that we were at, because that season was up. And we ended up going to another church, and I met this foster mom. And she I don't know how we got in the conversation. I was like, oh, my husband and myself are considering, trying to adopt. And she was just like, oh. And she said, well, I've had my daughter. I said, well, I adopted my daughter. And she said she was 3 days old. And I was like, and she said, yeah. And she was through the foster system. And I was like, well, I heard that you could never get a child. She's just like, yeah, but there are doors and there are opportunities where things just happened. And she said, and I've had her since I got her from the hospital. And so she says, well, this is the agency that I worked with. And so she gave us the information of the agency. That's my husband. He's mowing the lawn. She gave us the information of the agency, and I told my husband, and she said, why don't you go to the orientation and then see what you think. So we went, and as I said, remember now, this was foster to adopt. So my husband and myself went, and when we left, my husband was like, this is the place that we need to be. This is the organization that we need to work with. And I said, I want you to be sure now, because remember, this is foster to adopt. This is not straight adoption. And he says out of his mouth, I promise you, this is how God is amazing. He says, whoever comes through our home, we can bless them while they're there. And whoever gets to stay. Whoever gets to leave, we know that it was their season and their time. We just have to accept and do what God has called us to do. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this the same man that was like, no, absolutely not. No. And when I tell you, my husband was so on board that we had to update, because this was another state agency, so we had to transfer our paperwork from that agency to this one, update our home study. We didn't have to do the class again, and just kind of, as I said, more so just update our paperwork. So literally, like, we had started that there was 2013, like about October. Yeah, I think somewhere about October. And by January 2014, something, we were matched. I say matched. We were placed with a baby boy. He was six weeks old. Oh my gosh, and let me tell you, when you're fostering, you have to have everything in place. So we had the crib already, because you can choose what children you want when you're doing foster. And so of course, we wanted to have a baby, and so we said from a newborn up to 1 year old. And this little boy was 6 years old. He was 6 weeks years old. And here we begin our journey to parenthood. Oh my gosh, we were so excited. We were scared. You name it, we were all that. But thank God we had such great family and friends in our lives that came over and brought us all types of things. We had the crib, we didn't necessarily had clothing, what have you. I think that same day, my husband went to the store. He brought everything that he could possibly think of, buy. And then my precious girlfriend, who God rest her soul, came over, and she had a son like a couple of months, and she says, oh, I have a plethora of stuff, I'm bringing it over. And she brought over a whole bunch of things. So we were ready for our parent journey, and that was in 2014 that happened. And so he stayed with us until he was 3 months old. Was that devastating the day he left? It was absolutely. And so we were torn, where, okay, do we continue this journey? And so we decided to continue that journey. And so he left in the morning, and when he left in the morning, he was 3 months old when the first baby was placed with us. And we decided to let the caseworker know. It's just like our agency knows that, they said, do you want to be placed with another child? And we were just like, at first we were like, oh my God, we're torn. I bawled my eyes up, but we said no, let's go ahead, because for us, I think if we would have said no, give us time to heal, we most likely would not have done it anymore. That would have been the one and only child, but we didn't. We pressed forward, and we said yes. So he left in the morning, and in the evening we got a baby girl. Okay, and guess what? Everything that we had, except she was a girl, so we had to get covered. She was 3 months old. So my baby, our first little baby boy, he was 6. When we got him, he was 6 months. He stayed until he was 3 months. We got our baby girl, and she was 3 years old, exactly 3 months. Isn't God amazing? And so she She's been with us. That's the next day I get a phone call from the caseworker of the baby boy. So listen how God really opened up the window of the heavens and pour us out a blessing. We got a call from the caseworker. Remember I was telling you about the foster mom that I knew at church, where she had two girls. And when I tell you, when I saw these girls at church, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so beautiful. And I said to her, I said, are you going to adopt them? And she says, no, I don't want to. It won't be a good thing for me right now. And I said to her, and this was months before, and I said to her, well, if they ever become available, I would love to. And when I say I knew those girls were my daughters, but at the time they were with somebody anyway. So I see the phone number to the caseworker for the little boy, who happened to be the caseworker for my other daughters as well. So I see her calling, and she goes, Miss Melanie, and I'm like, yeah. She says, we have somebody in common. And I'm like, ooh. She says, she said the foster mom's name. I was like, oh yeah, we go to the same church. So she says, well, she said that if the girls were ever to be adopted, then you and your husband will be would like to be considered. And I was like, yeah. So I said, hold on, let me call you back. I'm going to call my husband. So I called my husband. I said, was this a test? And I was telling him, I said, you remember the girls from church? And he's like, yeah. He says, well, I said, well, they're available for adoption. So he was like, she's like, so the caseworker called, are we interested? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we went from no children and within a 7-month period to three daughters. To three daughters from us. So we had a 3-month-old. Then our one was 1 and one was 2 years old. That's what we went to. So I say this, whatever you're believing God for, know that God's timing is amazing. As I think of it now, and I think of the journey that we had to get to this point, and I think about the whole perspective that I have as it relates to the gift of adoption and the miracle of it, as well as the journey we had to go through fertility, that has given me such a perspective on just life and just learning how to appreciate life, whatever stage or journey that you are in, and know that season doesn't last forever. And to know that your perspective and how you go through that time makes a difference in how you come out on top. And I wanted to come out victorious. I wanted to be a better version of myself, for my husband, for my children, and others. And I can say this as well, or through my journey, even when I was going through. And I remember encouraging so many other, whether it was friends, people that I would meet, and we just happened to get on the conversation, and encouraging them. And some of them actually, I honestly say, they've gotten pregnant. And I can celebrate that. Now I think about, oh my gosh, I am just so glad of the journey, my journey. But my husband and myself was a unique journey, and it was a blessed journey. So I just want to be encouraged. Don't give up on your desire of being a parent. You and your spouse, your husband and your wife, stick together, encourage each other, love on each other, spend time together. And when it comes time to take a break, and do it again if you're going to go through the fertility process. And if it's adoption and the journey may be, so continue to press on. So this is Melanie Warren, also known as Coach Mel. Thank you for watching. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And if you even have any questions about the process, or just anything, or just need encouragement, by all means, make sure you leave a comment, and let us continue to encourage each other. And let me encourage you and help you and motivate you and inspire you on your journey. All right, so remember to pray, plan, and believe, and remember that God is still in the business of doing miracles. See you in the next video. Bye.